and to some other folks out there, maybe named Urban Meyer, Liar Meyer, whatever you want to call
Meyer
him these
Meyer.
days. Can't say I'm too surprised. Not after this year.
Yeah, but gosh, it sure did seem like the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, at least publicly, was supporting him. But just story after story after story, and you got to wonder what this does to Urban Meyer's brand. Before there were like some bad things that happened, at previous colleges. At Ohio State, he had the assistant coach who was very abusive to his wife, and apparently that wife confided in Urban Meyer's wife. There were ugly things like that. There were bad players along the way who turned out to be criminals, but Urban Meyer still was a winner wherever he went. He was a winner. Now, with this debacle in Jacksonville, not only is Urban Meyer tainted, and not only does he look like a dubious character who's got character flaws, but with all of these reports coming out of Jacksonville, he's kind of a jerk, and now kind of a jerk. Granted, the cupboard was pretty bare at Jacksonville, and remember, Jimmy Johnson went 1-15 his first season, but I got to believe Urban Meyer today kind of looks A, like a jerk, and B, for the first time, kind of looks like a loser.
Yeah, and if he hasn't ever felt like a loser before, I mean, I feel like he should. But given the ego that we know he has, maybe he's gotten over it somehow. But now he's waking up, probably still in Jacksonville, wondering what happened these last 11 months. I mean, he didn't even survive the entire season, Chris. We still have games to be played, and obviously Jacksonville 2-11, not the bottom of the barrel completely in the AFC South based on just wins and losses, with the Texans right there with them. But typically you would wait till the end of the season. Again, still games left to be played, maybe another win or two for the Jaguars to find in their season. But had this been reversed, if they were somehow 11-2, are we having this conversation this morning, given everything that's gone on with Urban? Because I don't think so. I think winning changes a lot, and I think that's one of the things that changes. And I think he has a track record for it. As you said, he's no stranger to scrutiny and kind of these extracurricular stories that aren't the greatest light on him. But because he won in Florida, because he won at Ohio State, he managed to find his way through and was able to leave on his own time. This time, not so much the case with that 2-11 record.
See, and I think there's a big difference between being a college football head coach and an NFL head coach. I mean, aside from the obvious differences, personnel, coaching adults and people who have families and are millionaires versus coaching 18 to 22-year-olds. When you're a college football coach, especially if you're a winner like Urban Meyer, you are a god. You are a god in Columbus, Ohio. Nick Saban is a god in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You can be a dictator. You can be a jerk. People bow to you. The media in those towns, they generally realize they have to be very, very good to you, or you won't be good to them. You won't give them access. I think Urban Meyer realized, or maybe he will realize now that he was blown out. I think he tried to be the same jerk dictator at Jacksonville. These reports that we heard, the way he addressed his staff, his assistant coaches, who he hired, and he said, "You guys are losers. I'm a winner. You guys are losers." As if this whole losing with the Jaguars were the coach's fault, not his, because I'm Urban Meyer and I'm perfect and I am all powerful and it can't possibly be me because I'm a genius. I just think that kind of thing can fly in college sports a lot more, certainly in college football, where you're the highest paid guy on the campus by factors of 10. And revered as a god. In the NFL, not so much. And that old adage, Shannon, it's repeated many, many times that, and normally toward players, but the NFL stands for not for long. And if you don't deliver the goods, you are not for long. And I think the problem with Urban Meyer was this was going to take time, no matter who was the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. but not only were you losing, but you were an incorrigible jerk. You were an idiot to your coaches, to your players. And I got to believe the owner of Jacksonville, who for the longest time tried to support him publicly, I got to believe Urban is so arrogant that he probably was, even on a certain level, an idiot and a jerk to the Jacksonville owner. And probably when you add it all together, and there was the final report last night, which in isolation, it's not that big of a deal. The kicker, Josh Lambo, who said now that Urban Meyer in pregame warmups walked up to him and said, you need to start making some blanking kicks, and then kicked him in the leg during pregame warmups. I mean, in isolation, that's a weird anecdote. And you go, my God, I can't believe a coach would do that. And of course, it depends on how hard he kicked him. But that apparently, I mean, he was teetering at the tipping point of getting fired, and apparently that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, because just days ago from Shad Khan, we were getting word, we're not going to make a hasty decision. We've gotten plenty of memos throughout the season of support for Urban Meyer from that upper brass, and then here we are today with 4 games left in the regular season. And he's out, and they've got the rest of the coaching staff, which is interesting too, right? Because Urban came in and he brought in his guys, he brought in his people. He, like you said, he didn't get the difference between NFL and college, that you can't run things the same way, and so yet they still feel very much in the same position to me as an organization. That they're going to need a complete overhaul come next year to do something. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence most of all in this situation, right? Because he still has all that pressure on him as the number 1 overall pick, as the quarterback of the future face of the NFL, all of these things that have been projected onto him. For this to be his first season in the NFL and to deal with this, and now to not know where he goes moving forward with whoever they're going to hire as that next guy, you'd hope he gets to play somewhat of a role in it this go round, because you could, be ultimately wasting a great career that could be what Trevor Lawrence has the potential to have.
It's interesting you bring up Trevor Lawrence, and I have no reporting on this. I have no evidence of this, but it just seems like common sense and human nature to me, Shannon. The future of the Jacksonville Jaguars is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, to me, in the whole scheme of things, was and is bigger than Urban Meyer. And I said, I think last week, that, as long as Trevor Lawrence is okay with Urban Meyer, I think Urban Meyer will survive. I just wonder if Jacksonville Jaguars owner Shad Khan had a discussion with Trevor Lawrence. And I wonder if, in confidence, Trevor Lawrence expressed misgivings about Urban Meyer, because if this Jaguars team is going to go anywhere, if they're going to go to a Super Bowl in the next 10 years, Trevor Lawrence is the guy. If Trevor Lawrence lives up to what all analysts projected, that he would be one of those quarterbacks like a John Elway, or like a Troy Aikman, or like a Drew Brees, I shouldn't even say Tom Brady because he's in a whole different stratosphere. But Trevor Lawrence, according to football analysts and people who know quarterbacks, has all of those attributes to be that guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I just wonder, and I know Trevor Lawrence publicly said the locker room is fine and we're fine with Urban Meyer. That's what he's got to say. Had he said anything else, that would have been mega headlines.
Right.
But yeah, so I just wonder, behind the scenes, did Trevor Lawrence remove his vote of confidence for Urban Meyer? Did that have something to do with this? But I do agree with you as well. I do feel sorry for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, look at Mac Jones, who by all accounts, and I think we can safely say, Trevor Lawrence is I won't say infinitely. Trevor Lawrence is a much more talented quarterback than Mac Jones. Mac Jones goes to Bill Belichick, stable coach, maybe greatest coach, or at least greatest active coach in the NFL, a very stable organization, and he is flourishing in that role and has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. As insane as that sounds, there's a shot. They could have home field throughout the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence goes to the worst team in the NFL, I know the Texans are the worst team in the NFL now, but based on the numbers in the draft last year, the worst team in the NFL. He goes to a coach now that we now know. We add it all up. The lap dance at the restaurant, the character issues before he even got there, all of the reports on how he treated people in Jacksonville, the Tim Tebow thing, hiring the strength coach who had said racist things before. You add it all up. He went to the worst team in football, arguably, an organization that has a lot of issues, and one of the weirdest, most dysfunctional coaches maybe in NFL history. And that's what Trevor Lawrence walked into as the number 1 overall draft pick.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence walked into a dumpster fire where the coaches in the organization had unlimited matches, and Trevor Lawrence just showed up with an empty bucket. There was nothing he can do. And I think you're right. Like, given him being a rookie this year, he can't do what we kind of saw Aaron Rodgers do and Russell Wilson do over the summer, right? Which was kind of leak these things to the media and get things out about how they're feeling about their particular situation. He doesn't get that choice. He doesn't get that option. If he comes out with something, he's labeled a certain way, a difficult player to coach, difficult player to have on your team, not a team leader, not a team guy. That's not the reputation you want as a rookie quarterback who's looking to make his mark in the league. I think he was unfortunately set up for failure from the jump with that Urban Meyer hire. So hopefully for him moving forward, the organization gets it right this next time, in both someone who can turn this organization around as a whole, but also do right by Trevor Lawrence and, whatever his career could become. Chris, I want to take us now to our poll question today, because it does involve Urban Meyer. So if you're on Twitter, head over to Ticket 760 and AM 13 on the Zone to vote. We're asking, after being fired by Jacksonville, what is in Urban Meyer's future? 9% right now saying he will coach college again. 22% currently saying he'll become a TV analyst. 27% saying no coaching or TV gigs. And 40% saying he's just going to go get more lap dances, Chris.
Well, and I'm looking on our live video feed, Shannon, Tracy Bogert, who joins us many, many mornings and participates like so many others that we appreciate. He said, Urban Meyer will be working for a top 10 college program as head coach within 60 days. I wonder, Shannon, Art Briles, obviously radioactive, horrible situation at Baylor, where he oversaw a program where players sexually assaulted women on that campus and women athletes on that campus. While there's no direct horrible situation like that, there's a little bit of the moral turpitude with the lap dance with a woman who looked about 30 years younger than he is, who is not his wife, at that restaurant after they had lost a game. I just wonder, University of Texas, the Longhorns gave a long look at Urban Meyer. He was very coveted just 1 year ago, a little over a year ago, by Texas. I know my alma mater, USC, took a long, hard look at Urban Meyer. The reports are that the president there, Caroline Folt, said no, and there were character issues. Mike Bone, the AD at USC, apparently the word there was they looked at him, did a lot of background checks, and said, for character reasons, we don't think we're going to hire this guy. I wonder now, though, Shannon, as you pointed out, if he were 11-2 in the NFL, a lot of this would be overlooked. Still with not nearly the baggage of an Art Briles to make him radioactive, Urban Meyer has a lot of issues, but do you think a major college program is going to say, hey, we're willing to take that leap, let's go get Urban Meyer?
Ones that don't care as much about character issues, ones that value winning more so than character issues, because there were those character issues before, and I'd say now, 11 months later, after he's been in the NFL and has been released from his duties, we now have more evidence towards the kind of human being Urban Meyer is, whether or not that translates to wins. It was weird when he jumped to the NFL, right? Because when he left Ohio, it was health reasons. It was this kind of, okay, this is going to help everything else around me die down. That's being discussed in the media, and not a great look for me. I liked him as a TV analyst just because he is kind of that polarizing guy, but I feel like given his ego, it would feel like defeat for him to go back and sit on a panel, especially now to discuss football after he just had this 2-11 run with Jacksonville.
You bring up a great point. The ego of Urban Meyer and the latest, you're as good as the last thing you've done. And the last thing he did was a disaster in Jacksonville. So, yeah, you got to wonder how his ego is going to play in. Comment from Amber on the live video feed. Pervin Liar will never coach again. He's no longer Urban Liar. He's Pervin Liar. Very nice. Coming up, we will say hello to our soundscape stylist, Dave Ayler. And Shannon, Dave tells me he is under the gun to pick his college bowl games. We may have to consult with him on the show and give him a little he shouldn't take advice from me. You look at my record for picking college games this season. If you went opposite of my picks and laid money down this season, you'd have made some good money this year. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he's a Texas Aggie. Aggies, by some metrics, won the day yesterday in National Signing Day. We'll talk about that with James Allen. We'll talk about the new Kurt Warner movie and a whole lot more. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics, just after 8:30. Shannon's Salty Shakedown in the next hour. Coming up, the high five play of the day. Lots of ground to cover. Lots of big stories in the last 12 hours in the world of sports. We will dive into each and every one of them. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Beth Settle, good morning. Let's see. Let me say hi to the people. Wow, that's so loud. Man, that music comes back on during the break. It's so loud. Because I crank my volume in case we have a guest. Or anyways, it's too much information. Tracy Bogert, Foamfoot 420, Luisa Alanis, Anthony Del Toro, Hector Gomez, Sam Tobias, Beth Settle, Jason Paniagua, John Williams, Ralph Balderas, Don Holding, Haas Holding, baby. Wrestling champion, Haas Holding. Don, I will try to remember that. If you're around when James is here, remind me, and I'll get to that. But since James isn't on for another, couple of hours, hour and a half, I'll try to remember that. But I'm spinning so many plates this morning, I may or may not get to it. I hopefully will. Okay, I'm going to get some coffee. Because according to Fitbit, I slept 3 hours and 32 minutes last night. Thank you, Spurs. Now, if the Spurs had won, I wouldn't mind that so much. But when they lose, and I sleep 3 hours and 32 minutes, I'm a little cranky. Like Zach Cranky. See, when we do our rap album, we'll have to include that. One of the rap songs we need to do is Cranky Like Zach Cranky. They'll all be sports related, of course. Thank you. Unless we decide to just collaborate with Bill Schoening. And we become Wild Bill and the Shonettes. My coffee may still be hot enough to where I don't have to nuke it. Oh, I think it is. Yes, it is. See, sometimes I do K-Cup coffee. And one of the problems with the K-Cup coffee is it loses its temperature much quicker than if you brew it the old-fashioned way. Jesse Bratton, welcome in. Jesse Bratton says, good morning. Coffee up. Oh, my Spurs. I still love them. Yeah, they got beat bad last night. One of the problems Charlotte scored 46 points in the first quarter. That's the most points the Spurs have given up in any quarter. So that was ugly. They have won 6 out of 10. 7 out of 10 would have been a whole lot more impressive. But for this team that's going through what it's going, young people trying to find its identity, 6 out of the last 10 is pretty good. That's a bold prediction tonight. Amber, a.k.a. Foamfoot 420, picking the San Diego Chargers tonight. And didn't they beat the Chiefs earlier in the season? Let me check that. Because the Chiefs are 9-4, Chargers 8-5. That is at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California / Los Angeles. Yeah. So if the Chargers win tonight, Chargers beat the Chiefs earlier in the season 30-24 at Arrowhead. So they would be tied record-wise, but the Chargers would have the head-to-head advantage by winning those 2 games. That would potentially throw the Chiefs into a wild card situation, which, if the Chiefs are hot, I don't know that hurts them that much. I mean, obviously, Arrowhead Stadium is a huge advantage. Chiefs are 6-2 at home and 3-2 on the road this year. Man, they've played 3 less road games thus far, so they're probably going to go on the road quite a bit here. Now, Chargers 4-3 at home. Cowboys beat them there. And 4-2 on the road, pretty even. But yeah, real big one for the Chargers. So if your prediction is correct, that would be a tremendous win. Okay, John Williams, that's a very random question, but that's okay. How do I grade myself on wrapping presents? I give myself a D+. I think C-. I suck at it. I do my best, but I wrap them and then I look at them and I go, oh God, that doesn't look too good. So a D+, not a total, not a D, sometimes there's effort. I'm like the Spurs, man. I put a lot of effort into it. Don, I am an XL typically. I wear a large or an XL, and these days, and I can't even say it's the COVID 20 because we're in 2021, but probably an extra large. It's very kind of you. A, you shouldn't do that. B, if it's a Haas Holding t-shirt, I will wear that with pride, and I will wear it on the air and on the live video feed. Because I am a big fan of yours, sir. I love what you're doing. Now, Wes Perkins. All right. Listen to this. Foamfoot 420. Wes Perkins says the Chiefs hammer the Chargers tonight. Chiefs D is the best in the league since about game 6. Yeah, that Chiefs defense held the Cowboys to 9 points. Not that that's saying a lot, the way the Cowboys offense has been playing, but kept the Cowboys out of the end zone. 3 field goals. See, Tracy, what did you send me? You sent me the Urban Meyer story. Okay. John Williams saying neither teams scored a touchdown in that game. Is that right, John? Chiefs had 19 points. I mean, if they were all field goals, that would be 9, 12, 15, 18. John, I'm looking at the box score. The first score was Travis Kelce on a 4-yard run for a touchdown. So the Chiefs scored a touchdown, first score of the game. The Harrison Butker extra point failed, but the Chiefs' sole touchdown in that game. Nope, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on a touchdown run in the second quarter. So the Chiefs scored 2 touchdowns in that game. Axel J. Miller, who is a Las Vegas Raiders fan, is hoping for a tie in tonight's game. Axel, I hope you're feeling better. Last time we talked here, you weren't feeling that well. I hope you're on the road to recovery.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
What a day in sports. There is so much ground to cover. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. The big banner headline in the National Football League and in sports is the Jacksonville Jaguars firing head coach Urban Meyer. We talked about that at length to start the show. I imagine it will come up throughout the morning, not only among us, but among our guests as well. Just after 8 o'clock, James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We talk all things football with James. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics. We'll talk with him just after 8:30 as UTSA gets ready to take on San Diego State in the Frisco Bowl. But you had a lot of big stories in the National Signing Day yesterday. Deion Sanders flipping one of the top prospects in the country. You've had Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns head coach testing positive for COVID. Spurs lose last night. Their next opponent, the Utah Jazz, have won 8 in a row and have won their last 4 by more than 20 points. And the Spurs will be at Utah tomorrow night. Before we do the high five play of the day, let us say hello to Dave Ayler, our soundscape stylist. Dave, we were talking so much about Urban Meyer in the first segment. Didn't get a chance to say hello. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Trying to go over this pool that I just got into. Like, I walked in this morning. They say, "Hey, we're doing a football pool. We got to have you have to have your picks in by tomorrow." Okay, well, thanks for letting me know. So I might need some help with this later on.
All right.
Because like, I don't know who's, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. I don't know who to pick in that one, or Myrtle Beach Bowl, or Till Greeter Cure Bowl. That sounds like something you'd put on hemorrhoids or something.
So you're picking each and every bowl
Every
game?
single one. Like, 42 bowls or whatever it is.
Is that a Charlie Parker pool? Whose pool
No,
is that?
he's in it. Yeah, it's Parker, Tim Merriman, one of his friends is putting it together. I think there's like 30 people in it.
They didn't ask Chris.
Chris?
Yeah, nobody asked me.
We can get you in there.
I'm a stooge. I'd be an easy, whatever the entry fee is, $10-$20.
You can't do much worse than I am. So yeah, $20 and you're in.
So it's $20.
Yep.
And there's like 30 people.
Is it 20 or 30? I don't know.
Is it winner take all on the? How are they going to distribute the money?
It's the first place gets 70, second place gets 20, and I think third place gets 10. So you have a chance of winning something.
Somebody's making some money on that pool. If there's 30 people and you're paying $20 each, and the winner's getting $70. It's a money-making prospect for whoever's running the pool. All right, we might have to consult later on. Again, though, you're better off listening to Shannon based on my record this year than me, or listen to me and just go opposite of what I suggest.
My immediate
Shannon,
advice
if you
is
can
go with your gut and then pick the opposite.
Well, there you go. And if you can pick the Cricket Celebration Bowl, that'll help me out.
Who is in the Cricket Celebration Bowl?
Celebration Bowl is South Carolina versus Jackson State.
Jackson State.
That's, your boy
Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Woo! Jackson State is in the news.
South Carolina. South Carolina State versus Jackson State.
I go Jackson State just because Deion Sanders.
I'll write that down.
Just based on his greatness and his Cowboy connection. All right.
The Affleck commercial.
That's right. He's in with Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And I know it's Affleck's colors, but seeing Nick Saban wear the sky blue blazer, in the powder blue blazer in the Affleck commercial, that just looks weird because we know that's not his color. That's not Alabama. He just looks really, really weird in that jacket to me. Just saying.
He rocks it though. I mean, he's probably getting paid a lot of money to wear that jacket.
He's Nick Saban. Good point. Very, very good point. All right, it is time for the high five play of the day. We do it every morning at this time because it's a good thing to give out high fives for people who are doing good things. It's what we're into. High five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in Austin. Great food, great drinks, big screen TVs everywhere so you can watch sports, food specials, drink specials, games galore, 2 decks of bowling, double-decker bowling. You've got axe throwing, laser tag, zombie dodgeball, which I still need to learn more about from Shannon. Shannon, who is getting the big high five this morning?
Well, we love giving out high fives each and every day, and we love it even more when we can find something local. And San Antonio, your man, Tim Duncan, and the San Antonio Food Bank have teamed up. They have created the 2-to-1 challenge going on right now to raise meals. Tim Duncan wants to provide 2.1 million meals this holiday season. So that is the goal. Obviously, the 2 and the 1, an homage to that jersey number that is so iconic in the San Antonio area, worn by one Mr. Tim Duncan. We're wanting to fight hunger in the area. So donations made will be matched by Mr. Tim Duncan from now through December 31st. So he's doubling the impact of each donation made to the San Antonio Food Bank. So if you can help in any way possible, be part of that and be part of Tim Duncan's goal to get 2.1 million meals for this holiday season.
Tim Duncan is just such the coolest guy, and he's done things like this before when the hurricane wrecked the Virgin Islands. I mean, he went there, he brought food there, he brought water there, he financed so much of that. And the food bank in San Antonio and across Texas, obviously, in the aftermath of this pandemic, so many families need help. And the food bank serves, the numbers are just staggering. I don't have them in front of me, but I read them the other day because the Spurs themselves are taking donations at Spurs games, Shannon. So I read a press release from the Spurs on the food bank, and just the number of people and families who need help from the food bank is just amazingly high and higher than ever. And the number of families the food bank helps, not only in San Antonio, the San Antonio Food Bank, I mean, a lot of surrounding counties in Texas that the San Antonio Food Bank serves. So Tim Duncan, I mean, all of the money Tim Duncan has made and all of the greatness he has earned all of his life, Tim could just kind of sit back in his retirement. Yeah. He's got a beautiful partner in Vanessa Macias, who is a friend. They got a beautiful daughter. He's got kids from his previous marriage. Tim could just be saying, you know what? I did it. I had a great NBA career, and I'm just going to enjoy life now because I have earned everything I have, and he has. But to realize there's a need out there and help your fellow citizens, in this case, in his community, man, he's special. You got to love that guy.
Yeah. And it's great that it's not just him, using his fame and fortune to just say, all right, here we go, let's do this. He's involving the community and challenging the community to all come together for this opportunity. And on top of it, like I said, you can donate money as well. And if you donate $21, you will receive a digital photo of Tim. And if you donate $2,100, you'll actually receive a special video from Tim. So plenty of great incentives on top of just helping out your local community during this holiday season.
Yeah, and that would be a video thank you. So Shannon, if you donate $2,100, Tim on video would say, hey, Shannon Salty Sweeney, Tim Duncan here. Just want to thank you for your generous donation to the San Antonio Food Bank.
Salty after all.
Exactly. So cool. Way to go, Tim Duncan. Just continuing to have an impact on the community. And of course, the San Antonio Food Bank, a big benefactor of and a big cause of the Spurs, and Greg Popovich, Coach Pop over the years has done so much for the San Antonio Food Bank. So great for this Tim Duncan of the Spurs to do that. It was weird, Shannon. Yesterday, I'm walking in the hall and I have a conversation with a coworker. I will not say his name because maybe he doesn't want to be quoted, but it was just a weird conversation. He goes, hey, so I'm in the hall for the Spurs game. Yeah, obviously, normally I work the mornings. So this guy saw that, I'm in the hall in the evening. He goes, oh, when's tip off tonight? I go, oh, just after 7:30. I said, man, if the Spurs win tonight, that'll be 7 out of 10. That's pretty good. 7 out of 10. He goes, you're enjoying the Spurs winning these games, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, I don't want them to win too much. We really need a high lottery pick. He said, I'd much rather see them get it's like, what? And he said, oh, I'm not saying they should tank. He goes, I'm just saying they're winning a little bit too much lately. And I was like, wow. So I should not be hoping. And the guy's point was, this Spurs team could use a very, very high lottery pick who could have a big impact on the future, like, Steph Curry is having on the Golden State Warriors or others. And then the other point was, in the modern era, and I think the whole Tim Duncan story ties into this, the thinking is, and a lot of people have this thought, what big-time free agent is going to sign with San Antonio? When you can go to L.A., when you can go to Miami, to South Beach, when you can go to Chicago. Some people believe that's part of the reason Kawhi Leonard wanted out. It was San Antonio. He's an L.A. guy. He wanted to play in L.A. And, I just said, and I would say to that sentiment, it's the San Antonio Spurs. It's Greg Popovich. It's R.C. Buford. It's a very stable and incredibly stable organization, and an organization that has proven that it can win. Granted, though, and Shannon, I always go back to this, PJ Carlissimo, who was an assistant coach for many years here under Greg Popovich. He was a head coach in the league. Now he's an analyst. Bill Schoening once interviewed him in a pregame before a Spurs game. And PJ Carlissimo said the first question that Spurs, the brass, asks in making a personnel decision is about a player, is he a Spur? Tim Duncan is a Spur. Number one, if you're a Spur, A, you got to get over yourself. B, you can't have a big ego. C, you've got to put team first and individual second. And I truly believe, Shannon, it's rare in the NBA to find a player with all those attributes, but they're there if you look close. If you look hard, I think you can find them. But I think it's rare because I think NBA players, by definition, you talked about Urban Meyer's ego a few minutes ago. The NBA is an ego league. It's like, dig me, watch my killer slam dunk or my three-point shot, then watch me pound my chest. Tim Duncan never pounded his chest. Tim Duncan was never about ego. Tim Duncan was about playing the game. So the hard part, Shannon, for the Spurs is finding players like that. And I mean, they did it before with Tim, Manu, Tony. For a while, Kawhi seemed to be that kind of a player, but that's kind of the situation the Spurs are in right now.
Does it worry you that it seems like we're nearing the end of Greg Popovich's tenure. We don't know exactly when it is, but we're obviously getting closer and closer each season. And because he is such a draw for players want to play for him. They want to learn from him and be guided by him. Is that going to hurt that argument for guys to be persuaded to want to play and stay in San Antonio without a guy like Pop there?
It's a great question. And to be honest with you, it does concern me and worry me a little bit. However, part of this brain trust is R.C. Buford and everybody else who the Spurs make decisions with. Whoever takes that role, and a lot of people think it's going to be Becky Hammon. I think Pop, whenever he rides into the sunset, I don't know because nobody knows. I think Pop would stick around as a consultant. I think he'd still be a big part of the decision-making process. And again, we say it, and some people think we say it jokingly, in Pop we trust. To me, that extends across this organization. And I think when he leaves, he will make sure his successor is someone prepared to do something along the lines of what he did. But yeah, it is daunting. But Spurs fans who are flipping out, this was and is inevitable with every great team, the great New York Yankees teams, the great Cowboys teams, Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. Every team goes through this, and the Spurs are going through it right now. And in the last snapshot of 10 games, they won 6 of them. So I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. And back to the gentleman you were talking to in the hallway, I'm never a fan of a team tanking, especially one that I am a fan of personally.
Yeah.
But I think for the Spurs fans, I think you want to see these wins, you want to see these things come together because you need that going forward. You're probably still going to get a decent draft pick this year. So make sure that that's a piece that you add to what is already momentum going forward and not we're starting from scratch again.
And I know people think I'm nuts. I point to the Golden State Warriors before they got Kevin Durant. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, that was a homegrown prospect. They built that team the old-fashioned way, and I think that's what the Spurs are trying to do right now with this youth movement. Quick break, lots more to talk about, including the firing of Urban Meyer. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Yeah, James, you make a great point, and I don't disagree with you here. James Rippey says, but not all stars and superstars are capable of handling the tough coaching of Popovich. LaMarcus was the biggest free agent signing ever. Tim, Tony, Manu, and the Admiral were all drafted. Yes. I think you go play for Pop, it's like going into the military. Hence Pop's military background. Pop will make you a better player. For most people, you go into the military and the military will make you a better person. However, can you handle that level of discipline that will be required of you? And for young 20-something millionaires, multimillionaires in the NBA, most of them would rather not do that. So, yeah, it's a tough prospect for the Spurs, but I don't think it's impossible because people like Tim Duncan are out there. So, and I know Tim Duncan's a once-in-a-generation guy, but Marcus Valdespino saying this is a great draft class. If the Spurs pick anywhere from 7 to 11, they'll be just fine. Man, I hope you're right. I haven't paid a lot of attention to this draft class. Louisa says Pop has changed a lot. He's not that hard on the players anymore, in my opinion. Louisa, you may be right, but I think that's hard to quantify. The Spurs are so much run like the CIA. They don't let us see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes. I think Pop has always, like Jimmy Johnson, treated different players differently, treated players how they needed to be treated. All right, I think my coffee does need a little nuking now, so I'm going to go do that. Yeah, Pop did get a haircut. Pop's back. John Williams likes his haircut. Back to more of a military look, where he had the long COVID haircut before that. I'll be back in a sec. James Allen. James Allen in the house. He will be on the show in about an hour at 8:05. We got a lot of things to talk about with James Allen, including his review of the Kurt Warner movie and his university, Texas A&M, being named by many as the winner in yesterday's National Signing Day in recruiting class. And for them, A&M to beat everybody, including Alabama and Georgia in the SEC, that is pretty darn amazing. USC did not do well, I read in The Athletic, James, but that was kind of expected. There's a second round coming. So USC was not ranked highly from what I read. So my sleep last night, according to Fitbit, which tracks my sleep, 3 hours and 32 minutes. For some reason, there's a lot of glare there. Woo, thank you. Thank you, Spurs. On a Spurs game night with the 3 a.m. wake up, not a lot of sleep. So if I seem a little cranky, A, the Spurs lost. B, I slept 3 hours and 32 minutes last night. Yeah, see, if I were just you, Foam Foot 420, that'd be a normal night. I was at Cowboys Dance Hall last night. Sleep schmeep. I'm going to Cover 3 tonight to watch the football game. Wes Perkins, we're beyond spoiled as Spurs fans. The Celtics, Bulls, and others had dynasties that crumbled and took forever to recover. The Spurs had not missed consecutive playoffs ever until last year, 44 years. They won 50 games, 20 years in a row, 5 titles spanning 3 separate decades. The issue is lack of patience for fans. I get it, but the Spurs are seeing what they got with this young core, and the future is bright. I agree with all of that. Wes Perkins, you are very wise. Good morning, Steve Duraco, the original Rock. Thank you, James Allen. Yeah, John Williams saying, at least I didn't have to go on WOAI this morning. Yeah, that happens sometimes. When Charlie Parker and Tim Merriman are out, they have me do that first hour. No, or actually when Tim Merriman's out, they have me do that first hour. So, yeah. James Allen giving Wes Perkins props on that post. James Allen joins us in an hour. Always lively. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
Try to run, try to hide. We're gonna do the other side.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on a big football Thursday as the weekend of football begins tonight. Thursday night football at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Technically Los Angeles. It's a big old metroplex. It'll be the Chargers against the Kansas City Chiefs. We got a lot to talk about. Urban Meyer fired overnight by the Jacksonville Jaguars. National Signing Day yesterday, what Deion Sanders did at Jackson State, the Texas Aggies, by most reports, with the number one signing class yesterday, James Allen, who is joining us right now on the live video feed. James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame going to join us about an hour from now, just after 8 o'clock. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA football and UTSA athletics, the latest as UTSA prepares for San Diego State in the Frisco Bowl in just a few days. We will talk to Andy. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history and sports birthdays coming up. Shannon, one of the big stories yesterday, before we found out by most reporting metrics that Texas A&M had the best day as far as its recruiting class, Deion Sanders, prime time, does something I think that's pretty unprecedented. And of course, Deion Sanders, a Hall of Famer in the National Football League, now the coach at Jackson State. He gets cornerback Travis Hunter, ranked number 2 in the country as a recruit. Some services had him as number 1 in the country. He was headed to Florida State, which ironically is the alma mater of Deion Sanders, but Deion Sanders got him to go to Jackson State, which clearly ain't Florida State. Shannon, a lot of people scratching their head on this move. I was listening to our air yesterday, and Doug Gottlieb, a national sports broadcaster on Fox Sports Radio, just talking about what a dumb move this was for Travis Hunter to make, just based on, you know, you can pick any school you want to go to, and you could have gone to Florida State. Doug Gottlieb made the point, you've got to think long-term and your lifetime. If you're a graduate of a school like Florida State or the University of Texas or Alabama, that cachet and that alumni base for the rest of your life is going to pay dividends for you. And he was saying more so than Jackson State. But what I like about it, Shannon, I just like the precedent. I like that Deion Sanders demonstrated that you can be a head coach, and obviously part of the story is just the fact that he's Deion Sanders. Jackson State, a historically black college university, which is a big deal, but also not one of the blue bloods, to show that a coach with personality and charisma and something to offer a young top recruit can get him to go to that smaller college. Shannon, to me, I think that's good for college football.
Yeah, and Sanders was quoted in saying, you know, he's got a once-in-a-lifetime chance to play for one of the greats. You know, he gets the chance to make a change in history. And, you know, for a lot of these kids, especially when you're ranked that highly, right, in your mind it is, I'm going to go play football at this level, and then I'm going to play football at the next level. And that doesn't always go that route. But for a guy like this, I mean, he sees Deion Sanders and sees what he did with his career, and why wouldn't you try to emulate that in the best way you can? And getting the chance to play under him is huge. You know, earlier in the week, I believe it was Lane Kiffin who made a comment about, you know, signing and said with NIL, kids are just going to end up signing wherever they can go make the most money. Well, in this argument, I think it's fair to say that you end up at a Florida State as that highly ranked of a recruit, you would probably make more money than you are going to a Jacksonville State. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you do on the field and that win and loss record. And so, you know, that's all still to be tested. But it's just interesting that, you know, we are still going through the first year of NIL, and this is now the first time we're having signing day. So we are really getting to see, okay, this kid picked this school because look at what deals might come of it for him financially, versus a kid like this who has a great opportunity to make it to the next level, is choosing the coach over maybe anything financially that he can gain right at this very moment, and choosing to play for a guy like Deion Sanders, who we talked about earlier. I mean, he looks good in that Aflac blue, and he's, he's no Nick Saban, but when you see them side by side, you're like, I mean, they're both icons in their own way. Why wouldn't you want to play for one of those guys?
Yeah, and when USC, my alma mater, was looking for a coach, I was hoping they'd give Deion Sanders a look based on who he is and the charisma and who he could attract to that school. Now, you bring up NIL. Apparently there is an NIL connection that may have enabled this, and that, according to some reporting, Travis Hunter, the cornerback who signed with Jackson State, has a pretty lucrative deal with Barstool Sports already. So, I mean, here's a guy, I'm already making money, so that's part of it. But I've also heard some people say the very fact that Travis Hunter is a cornerback and clearly has NFL aspirations, as you allude to, Shannon, and Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer, was perhaps the greatest cornerback in NFL history. And if he wasn't the greatest, certainly you'd count 5 on your hand, and he's one of those. And a lot of people believe Deion Sanders, in his pitch to Travis Hunter, probably said, hey, man, I'm a cornerback. You're a cornerback. I was the best there ever was. I'm prime time in the NFL. I will show you how to use your talents and do what I did. So to your point, Shannon, and it's a great point, what Travis Hunter did, and I think what a lot more students, and I think they do it anyway, even before NIL, is you don't necessarily go play for the college. You play for the coach. That's
Yep.
why this coach movement, that's why Sark to Texas, that's why Lincoln Riley to USC, that's why Brian Kelly to LSU is such a big deal. That's why Jeff Traylor, being such a great coach at UTSA, is probably going to continue to do big things, because people hear him, see him. If he comes into your living room, you go, damn, I want to play for that guy.
Now, I want to ask you this question, because, signing day, for some kids, it's huge, right? It is a entire operation, a show, family, friends, local media, sometimes national media. Other guys, they just sign the paper, they send it in, and it's a done deal. Travis Hunter, yesterday, in making his announcement, had some other schools as well as Florida State's caps sitting in front of him. He started to pick up those other schools' caps and threw them out in front of the table. He then put on the Florida State Seminoles hat, wore it for a minute, and then shook his head, took it off and threw it, unzipped his jacket to show the Jackson State logo, and then someone, I guess a friend in the crowd, tossed him the hat that he then placed on his head to say, "This is my final decision." Your thoughts on that performance alone? His first official as a Jackson State player for one Deion Sanders. It feels like a very primetime move, if you ask me.
It is a primetime move. It does kind of punk Florida State a little bit. I mean, Shannon, if that were Texas and you were watching for a few seconds, you'd have been very excited. If it were USC and I was watching for a few seconds, I'd be very excited. But I do agree, and I think you nailed it. It is a primetime move. And that whole thing with the caps, it's becoming such a tradition. When you're a highly touted recruit now, it's almost like an end zone dance or an end zone celebration. There was a time in football where, a guy would score a touchdown, he'd just hand the ball to the official, and that was it. Some still do that. But now, end zone celebrations are a tradition. And how creative can you be in your end zone celebration? I think in this case, Travis Hunter just showing some creativity and some flair and some entertainment value in his cap choosing ceremony to demonstrate which college he was going to go to. So, yeah, and you're right. I mean, and I don't know a lot about Travis Hunter other than he was ranked number 2 in the country, and some people had him ranked number 1. But maybe one of the reasons he chose Deion Sanders and Jackson State, maybe he does have a personality like Deion Sanders. Maybe he wants to be prime time, and maybe he wants not only to do great things on the football field, maybe he wants to showcase his personality. And again, if you're looking for a mentor, and this goes for any business, whether you're in sports or whatever business you're in right now or aspire to be in, if you can find a mentor who had great success in that business, who wants to show you the ropes and wants to impart his or her knowledge to you, I mean, that's what you do. Go find, and your mentor should be the best person in that field you can find. So for Travis Hunter, I want to be a cornerback in college football in the National Football League, and I want to use my personality. Who better to find than Deion Sanders? Now, let me ask you this. One of the criticisms Travis Hunter is getting is, hey, Deion Sanders apparently wanted the TCU job and nearly got the TCU job. A lot of people say the second a bigger university comes calling for Deion Sanders, he's going to bolt from Jackson State and move on. What would be your response to people saying that about Travis Hunter?
That's the nature of college football. I mean, I don't think anybody who went to Oklahoma in the last several years thought that Lincoln Riley would leave, especially in the way that he did, right? I mean, we talked about it earlier. When you are a winning college football coach, especially at a school like a Texas, like a Florida State, like an Oklahoma, you are the man on campus. You are a god. You can do no wrong. Lincoln Riley is there winning back-to-back Big 12 championships, usually in the conversation for a potential playoff spot. For him to up and leave, that was something that no one saw coming, but it is the nature of the game, and it is the nature of college football at this moment. And, oh, by the way, there's this thing called the transfer portal where kids have followed coaches before. And can, who's to say that if Deion took that TCU gig, that Travis wouldn't have made his commitment there. So to me, this does seem like a Deion Sanders commitment first and foremost, and then to the school itself. I've got this video of his announcement paused right now. He just put on the Jackson State hat, and he looks ecstatic. His smile is completely across his face. For anyone knocking this kid, do better. Do better.
Yeah.
He's 18 years old.
And Shannon, as I just said, in any business, find your mentor. And apparently his mentor is Deion Sanders. And what you just said is another key to this. I think NIL is a key to this because apparently he's already making money with Barstool Sports. So he's not that worried about all the other money he could have made at Florida State. And number two, with the transfer portal, he is now free. If Deion Sanders goes anywhere, if Baylor wants to hire Deion Sanders, if Michigan blew out, or name any school that Deion Sanders may want to go to, you just go follow him. If my guy is Deion Sanders, that's my coach. Oh, my coach is now going to another university. Guess what? I'm going into the transfer portal, and I'm going to go join him. To me, Shannon, and that's a huge dynamic. And if Deion Sanders is looking for another gig now, I mean, he didn't have this when TCU was reportedly considering him. But if Deion Sanders can amass a bunch of players, and obviously the headliner would be cornerback Travis Hunter, next go round when he wants to, go coach at another university, Deion can say, A, look at my track record. B, I'm prime time. I'm Deion Sanders. And C, the guys who are really, really good, I'll bring them with me. And if you're a university now, and Shannon, that's the reason I wanted Deion Sanders, because we had just at USC gone through the years of Clay Helton. Clay Helton was a nice guy, but not dynamic at all, not charismatic at all, not a Pete Carroll. And certainly not a Deion Sanders. And the reason I wanted USC to consider Deion Sanders was the charisma, was the prime-time-ness of him. And I think that is exactly what was in play here and how he landed Travis Hunter. It's who Deion Sanders is. So now I think if TCU now may actually be thinking, look what he can do at Jackson State. Maybe we should have rethought this. And I think now other big-time blue blood universities, if they're in the market for a head coach, are going to say, look, I mean, he's demonstrating what he can do at Jackson State. Imagine what he could do with our brand.
Yeah, I very much agree. And Deion Sanders, I think when he first took that job, for me, it felt like it was just something he wanted to try because he could, right? Because of the career he had, and that he was given that opportunity because of his name and because of what he did on the field. But unlike what we are going through with Urban Meyer, right, where that experiment just completely went off the rails and stayed off the rails, Deion has done damn near everything correctly, except maybe that press conference when he was like, "It's Coach Sanders, right? Don't call me primetime, don't whatever. It's Coach Sanders." But even then, like that really isn't, that's his personal preference, I guess. But yeah, he's doing everything right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, they've had success under him. They've been winning games. They're going. Which bowl game are they going to, Dave? Something cricket.
Yeah, it's a cricket.
Place South Carolina.
Some kind of cricket bowl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have the location of that? No. Okay. Okay. Somewhere in the South.
Imagine Deion Sanders leads that team to victory in that bowl game. We've still got a sign. This was early signing day. We still have a signing period in February. Kids are now going to see them winning bowl games. They're going to see a guy like Travis, who is already committed and fully in. They're going to keep seeing Deion in those Aflac commercials, and they're going to start thinking, maybe that's a guy I'd like to play for too.
Great point. All great points. And again, ultimately, Shannon, it's good for college football. I love that Deion Sanders is doing this at a smaller school, and the fact that it's at a historically black college university as well is tremendous. I did want to get to this story as well, and I know it's in your notes. It's so many big stories. Urban Meyer National Signing Day, Texas Aggies, which we'll get into with James Allen. If it weren't for these other stories, this would be a big story. DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best wide receivers in football. Some people would argue he is the best wide receiver in football. He's got a knee sprain. He will be out for the rest of the regular season. On one level, Shannon, I say, how does that affect the Dallas Cowboys? Well, The Cowboys play the Cardinals next to the last game of the regular season on January 2nd. But again, now you look at what the Cardinals are able to do with that offense and Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins has been a big part of what they do. You take away your best wide receiver, and other than Kyler Murray, your 1A best player on that offense, second perhaps to Kyler Murray. That is a big blow for the Arizona Cardinals, Shannon, I believe, moving forward. And they hope to have him for the playoffs. They don't even yet know if he's going to be ready to go for the playoffs. And if they don't secure the number 1 overall seed, which now they've fallen out of that, Green Bay is now in that position for the moment, then they don't earn that extra week of rest for DeAndre Hopkins and the rest of their team.
Yeah, it's a super strategic move on their part to go ahead and shut him down for the regular season. Their chances are they're going to be going to the playoffs, and like they said, they're hoping to have him during that time. And so the flip is, okay, do you use him now to continue to try and put your best foot forward to get that bye week, to get that number 1 seed? Or do you risk, playing the way that, and they've been without him a couple of times already this year, and they haven't, they've still won some games here and there without him. So it's not unheard of. But I think the other interesting side of this conversation is people are now wanting Larry Fitzgerald to come and fill in for him while he's gone. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much from Larry, but I for some reason, I don't see him like a T.O. who's like just working out all of the time and just like, I can come back at any second. Like, no, I think he is like for real retired.
Yeah, when you've been out of the game for the season, as Larry Fitzgerald has, and when you're older and you've got old bones, I can't see it either. I mean, it's a nice thought. I mean, you even had some New Orleans Saints fans wanting Drew Brees to come back this year after Jameis Winston was injured. And it's not practical, especially when a player has not had a training camp, has not been targeting this all year long. You mentioned T.O., and that's a great analogy, a guy who said he was working out constantly and staying in shape and waiting for his moment to come back into the league. Larry Fitzgerald is doing a weekly podcast / radio show with Jim Gray and Tom Brady. I mean, that's the only thing I know about this season with Larry Fitzgerald. So it's a nice thought, and I'm sure wistful Arizona Cardinals fans would love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. All right. Lots of show coming up. We are moments away from Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Coming up as well this day in sports history and sports birthdays. And then a huge 8 o'clock hour. James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Want to get his thoughts on Urban Meyer. Want to get his thoughts on the firing of Urban Meyer. If you're waking up to this news and you haven't locked in to media or social media, you may be finding out for the first time this morning the Jaguars blew out Urban Meyer last night. So we'll cover that with James Allen. James Allen has seen the new Kurt Warner movie, which drops on Christmas Day. Shannon says the trailer is hideous. James Allen reportedly liked that movie, so we'll get his thoughts on that. Plus, his alma mater, Texas A&M, according to most who handicap National Signing Day, Texas A&M had the best recruiting class in the country yesterday. We'll talk about that. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA football, UTSA athletics. How did UTSA do on National Signing Day? And Andy did the coaches show yesterday with Jeff Traylor. We'll get the latest that he gleaned from Coach Jeff Traylor as UTSA gets ready for the Frisco Bowl early next week against San Diego State. Dave Ayler making the show go, multitasking, doing his college bowl picks for the pool he's in. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Let's see. Yeah, James, I'm sorry, John Williams sent me a photo of the logo. It is the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. I prefer to just call it the Frisco Bowl. But, yeah, you're more accurate than I am on that. Let me see here. Marcus Valdespino, I think Ben Rios from Central Catholic has a chance to start for UTSA as a freshman. Very cool. Yeah, one of the things, and I know you know this, Marcus, Jeff Traylor really wanting to develop the local talent and get them to stay here as opposed to go somewhere else. Louisa says, what's remarkable about Texas's recruiting success in the top 5 is we had a terrible season and Sark was still able to attract top talent. Hook 'em. Good point. And, you know, that will be the key. And again, though, and I know Shannon has made this point, and a lot of people will tell you, you know, you got the ratings of the recruiting class, but until we see these guys on the field, you know, you really don't know who was number 1, who was number 5 or whatever until you actually see it a few years later. And then you can look back and say, you know, back in 2021, or now we can look at the, you know, 2018 recruiting class and have an actual view of how it performed. But it's great. It's great intrigue. Sam Tobias says the transfer portal, the NIL, is what changed how the transfer portal is utilized as of now. Yeah, I mean, those two things have really, and I think ultimately they're good for the game. Pre-transfer portal and pre-NIL, you had college athletes locked in a situation sometimes that they didn't want to be in, with not a lot of recourse. They weren't getting paid. There's so much money being made, especially in football. So, you know, I think that has cured. I think that has cured a couple of ills. It's given players a little more autonomy to control their own destiny, which they're adults. They should be able to do. And it got them an opportunity for some money. You know, and what I like is, you know, and we talked about the thing at Texas where, you know, this money is being generated for offensive linemen. You know, the first thought was only flashy, high-profile, skill position players, you know, like quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, or a phenom defender were going to be able to make money in a big way off their name, image, and likeness. You know, now universities getting creative with getting money to all the players. A, that's good for the players. B, that's good for the program, because players are going to see, hey, I go to this university, I can make money. Xavier Moreno. No Lonnie, no Primo last night. The Spurs played like crap, says Xavier. I'd trade Pirtle and White for Ben Simmons. Yeah, but Xavier, Ben Simmons sure looks like a head case. You know, can you trust Ben Simmons not to be the next Kawhi Leonard and just want out and refuse to play? I mean, if you could get him, you know, I've always thought Chip England, who is so good in player development and helping players with their shots and free throws, I've always thought Ben Simmons wanted it. Chip England could fix him. And again, I go back to what I brought up earlier, and I bring it up a lot. The question the Spurs always ask, is he a Spur? And I got a feeling Ben Simmons, his demeanor, his approach to life in the game, I got a feeling he's not Spurs material. I could be wrong.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Thank you, voice guy. In a moment, Shannon shall present unto you her salty shakedown. Before that, we'll get you some sports history, sports birthdays. Reminder, big 8 o'clock hour. James Allen, former Texas Aggie football player, now board member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, also on the selection committee, a guy we talk all things football with. We'll talk about the firing of Urban Meyer, what he thinks might be next for Urban Meyer. His alma mater, Texas A&M, rated number 1 by most in yesterday's National Signing Day as far as recruiting class goes. He also saw the Kurt Warner movie, so we got a lot to get to with James Allen. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, just after 8:30, the voice of UTSA football and UTSA athletics, Andy Everett, on all things UTSA, including the upcoming bowl game early next week in Frisco against San Diego State. So let's get this party started. Let's talk before the salty shakedown. How about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? On this day in 1923, the National Football League Championship, the undefeated Canton Bulldogs repeat as NFL champions with a record of 11-0-1. Of course, Canton would ultimately be the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I saw some cool Canton Bulldogs memorabilia in the Pro Football Hall of Fame this past August. On this day in 1945, the NFL championship at Cleveland Stadium, the Cleveland Rams beat Washington, who went by their former name at the time, 15-14. So the Cleveland Rams win the championship, and then Cleveland says, enjoy your championship, Cleveland. We, the Rams, are now moving to La La Land. The very next year, they move to Los Angeles and become the Los Angeles Rams. So there's that. On this day in 1962, New York Giants quarterback Y.A. Tittle set the NFL single-season touchdown record with 33 touchdowns as he finished the regular season against the Dallas Cowboys with 6 touchdown passes. Giants beat the Cowboys 41-31. Glad I was I was alive, but not conscious. I was an infant. I'd have been bitter that day as a Cowboys fan. On this day in 1973, O.J. Simpson, the Juice, becomes the first NFL running back to rush for 2,000 yards in a season. Thank you, Juice. Very nice. Dave Ayler right there with the Juice drop. And that was a 14-game season, by the way. That was pretty darn impressive. I remember that final game. I watched it when O.J. was trying to get, A, break Jim Brown's record, and B, get 2,000 yards. It was in the snow in Buffalo, and it was a very, very dramatic setting for O.J. Simpson to get that NFL rushing record and 2,000 yards. Finally, this day in 1979, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Roger Staubach throws 3 touchdown passes, 336 yards through the air. It is the final regular season win and the final win in Rodgers' career. The Cowboys beat Washington 35-34 at Texas Stadium on a Roger Staubach to Tony Hill touchdown pass. The next week, the Cowboys would lose to the Los Angeles Rams in the first round of the playoffs. So Rodgers' final victory was on this day, December 16th, 1979. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1931, football player in the NFL, later a very renowned sportscaster, Tom Brookshire. Tom Brookshire was born, I didn't know this, in Roswell, New Mexico. So maybe he had a UFO sighting. Maybe he met with aliens. For a while, before John Madden retired from coaching and was teamed up with Pat Summerall, your number one CBS team was Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire. For years, they were the A team at CBS doing a football broadcast. Tom Brookshire passed away in 2010. Born on this day in 1938, acclaimed American sports writer Frank DeFord did a lot of print work, later did some TV work. Born on this day in 1962, Chicago Bears defensive lineman William the Refrigerator Perry. Not just a defensive lineman, they would hand the ball off to him sometimes, and he'd score touchdowns. William the Refrigerator Perry, one of the greatest nicknames ever, by the way. Born in Aiken, South Carolina. And finally, born on this day in 1979, South African golfer Trevor Immelman. Trevor Immelman won the Masters in 2008. Trevor Immelman was born in Cape Town, Western Cape, South Africa. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your salty shakedown.
All right, Chris, as we know, yesterday was the official early national signing day. So many schools brought in a ton of new players to add to their rosters, bringing excitement back into the life of some programs like Texas who are not involved in a bowl game. We just talked at length about how the signing for Jackson State went down and the choice of going with the old-fashioned way, as I like to call it, the hats, the deciding your final school by putting on that hat and saying this is the one. But Chris, there was an odd announcement yesterday, and that there was an announcement for no announcement. This 5-star recruit, Keontae Goodwin, he flew to Dallas from Kentucky for this announcement. It was this purple carpet announcement by Takis, so it was a sponsored announcement for guys to make. I don't know if you know what Takis are. They're like spicy chips, I think. They're kind of rolled up. They're kind of weird, but they're cult. People love them. They're like a cult-like snack. So he goes to this event, flies from Kentucky to Dallas for the event. It's between Michigan State and Kentucky. He gets there, he sits down, and his announcement is that he has not decided. This was yesterday morning. He then goes back home to Kentucky, and then later last night finally says, you know what, I am going to sign with the Cats. I'm going to be playing for Kentucky for my career. He is the number 2 offensive tackle in the nation by 247 Sports. He's 6'8", 340 pounds. So he's a pretty big dude. People are calling him the Mammoth. But Chris, he flew to Dallas for this announcement, didn't have an announcement, flew back home, and then later decided, all right, I mean, listen, I'm all for you taking your time. But why'd you get on the plane? Because you got to miss a day of school, I guess? I don't know. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, you had one job, Keontae Goodman, one job. Get to Dallas and make your announcement. And again, Shannon, gosh, you think of it, this is such a monumental decision in these young people's lives. I can, on a certain level, understand the angst, but that is pretty darn amazing. You fly from Kentucky to Dallas. It's a big deal. The lights are bright. The cameras are on you, and you haven't decided yet. The
carpet is laid out.
The purple carpet is laid out. And then, but you do on the same day go home and then decide. That's weird. That is weird, man.
One of the more interesting announcements made yesterday, or non-announcement, if you want to look at it that way. All right, Chris, moving on. Baseball, we are in a lockout right now, but that doesn't mean baseball cards still aren't being manufactured and traded and sold on the interwebs. And huge baseball cards post-World Series are those World Series championship cards that come out. And Topps officially released theirs for the Braves. As we know, they did beat the Astros in the World Series this year, but sure, there's some issues with these World Series baseball cards that are printed on every single one that people purchased in advance. So I'm going to read you the back of this baseball card, and then I want you to see if you can spot some of the errors that are
Okay.
located on this card. All right. The Braves are World Series champions for the 4th time in franchise history and the 2nd since the club moved to Atlanta. The Braves displayed an all-around team effort and punctually defeated the Houston Astros in just 5 games. The club overcame significant injuries to their roster and prevailed as the deepest team in the postseason. Guided by a series filled with timely hits and brilliant pitching performances, the Dusty Baker-led squad is on top of MLB.
Well, the Dusty Baker as the Braves manager is the first thing that pops out to me.
Yes, pretty glaring.
The other was it a 5-game series? I mean, I'm still
not,
traumatized by the loss in that series. So yeah, that
So
doesn't sound right.
Dusty Baker, clearly the Astros manager, is Brian Snitker, is the Atlanta Braves manager, and the Braves won the World Series in 6 games. They won that series 4-2 over the Astros. Chris, Tops, you're in trouble here. I mean, who did this? Not one mistake, but 2 on the World Championship. MLB, there's probably a lot of people getting fired this morning as the pictures of the back of these cards are now all over Twitter. But they got to be making new ones, right? You can't have these.
Well, 2 things. Number 1, your Topps. Topps is like the primo card making company for decades and decades and decades. I mean, that's like the biggest companies in the world. That's like IBM or American Airlines, or you're not supposed to make those mistakes. Number 2, though, you know how trading cards work, Shannon. If they now correct these cards are now going to become very, very valuable. 10, 20, 30 years from now, these Topps cards that made the mistake, I'll bet you in a weird, and who knows, maybe Topps did this on purpose, conspiracy theory. In a weird way, these are going to be valuable now because they made the mistake.
I mean, and it's not like it's a spelling mistake or a grammar mistake.
God.
These are glaring mistakes, huge oversights. But you're right. Years from now, these cards may be going for more than what I would assume would be a fixed version somewhere down the line. All right, Chris, it is the holiday season. We are getting closer and closer to me going to bed on the 24th, just hoping that the next morning I wake up to Santa having eaten my cookies and left me presents under the Christmas tree. So I want to do some festive things as we get to our final shows of 2021. And in the season of giving, that's exactly what Kraft, the company, is doing. They, of course, the popular provider of Philadelphia cream cheese sir. And apparently, as we know, there's a lot of supply chain issues going on right now. Most of the discussion has been around technology and chips and things of that nature. But there is a cream cheese shortage, sir, which I did not realize over the weekend when I went and purchased cream cheese to bring as part of a side dish for the party I attended. So sorry about that. But because of the shortage, Philadelphia is offering people $20 to not get their product, to not buy cream cheese, to go and either purchase or make a different dessert that is not cheesecake, which would involve their cream cheese. And to prove it to them, you send them a receipt, show them what you made, show them what you bought. You go to their website, you send them the receipt, and they will reimburse you for $20, no matter how much the item was that you purchased. Instead, you just go to their website, click on the promotion. They are giving away $20 to 18,000 people. The first lot is for 10,000 people. Then later they'll open it up for another 8,000 slots. This will begin Friday. And then for 10,000 folks, and then 8,000 more slots will open on Saturday. I think that's pretty cool. And they're doing it through the 24th. So you don't feel rushed. I don't know how many people are going to cash in on this $20, but $20 is $20, Chris.
Yes.
To not buy something.
Such a crazy story, and I had not heard that story until you just delivered it on your Salty Shakedown. The Philadelphia cream cheese wants to pay you not to buy their product for that. I mean, I've never heard of any company ever wanting to pay you not to buy their product. That is crazy.
Yeah. And they've made it, if you go to their website, there's a promotional video, 45-second commercial spot where it's an empty shelf with one little box of cream cheese. And they're like, instead of spreading, It's cream cheese this holiday season. Spread the feeling. So there, it's kind of genius, right? I mean, people may turn around and spend all that $20 right back on craft Philadelphia cream cheese once that becomes available. I've never had cheesecake as a dessert at Christmas. I wish I did. I love cheesecake, and now I want cheesecake. But apparently, this isn't the holiday to do it. But there it is. Today's salty shakedown.
Great, outstanding salty shakedown as always. What you just said, I totally agree with. This is kind of genius by Philadelphia cream cheese. It is so bizarre to hear of a company wanting to pay you not to buy their product. Obviously, Shannon, here you are reporting on the story. I got to believe media outlets across the country and around the world are going to be talking about this. So, I mean, from a publicity standpoint alone, so they allocated this money. They said, all right, what is it? 18,000, $20 times 18,000. Somebody
$360,000.
Okay. So somebody quantified for $360,000. Just think of the publicity alone. In media coverage on this. It is genius. It's brilliant. And whoever does, and as you said, $20 is $20. So some people are going to be doing this. And I think in a weird way, it's going to drive those people to their website. So those people are going to bond a little further, connect a little further with Philadelphia cream cheese. It is really somebody in their marketing meeting came up with a brilliant idea. I think it's an amazing idea.
Happy holidays. Don't eat cheesecake.
Happy.
Love
So
Philadelphia cream cheese.
Yeah, and my in my family at Thanksgiving and at Christmas, stuffed celery is a big deal with the Philadelphia cream cheese. You put that cream cheese in celery and you sprinkle some paprika on it or something, but I can't imagine a world without Philadelphia cream cheese. And why is it Philadelphia? What is that where it came from? I mean, why isn't it Memphis? Why isn't it New Jersey?
Don't they have enough?
Philadelphia. Exactly.
I did the block of cream cheese with then just like the Chipotle cranberry sauce on top and then some butter crackers, and it's the easiest thing ever to put together because it's just a block of cream cheese with the sauce on top, but it's so delicious and so very addicting. I kind of feel bad now. I didn't know there was a cream cheese shortage, and I bought 2 blocks. They were eaten. It wasn't like it went to waste. So
right. Now, did you notice because there's a shortage, is it more expensive to buy Philadelphia cream cheese right now?
I mean, listen, I'm balling on a budget, but I really didn't pay that close attention when I bought cream cheese because it was on my list. I kind of had already accepted whatever price it was going to be.
This is $4. I normally pay $2.98. So okay, not that discerning. Looking at the prices coming up. James Allen, so much to talk about. The huge NFL story of the day. Last night, the Jacksonville Jaguars blow out Urban Meyer. James Allen's thoughts about that. James Allen's thoughts about Texas A&M, ranked number 1 in its recruiting class yesterday on National Signing Day. That's pretty darn impressive when you got Alabama, Texas, Georgia, other schools out there competing. And James Allen saw the Kurt Warner movie, get his review of that movie, which drops on Christmas Day. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA football and UTSA athletics. He was hanging out with Coach Jeff Traylor last night on the Coaches Show. We'll get the latest on the UTSA front, including their recruiting class. How is that looking? Big 8 o'clock hour coming up. Dave Ayler making the show go. It's the Chris Duel Show. Jason Paniagua says, don't buy cream cheese, get $20, buy cream cheese with it. Sell it on eBay due to the shortage, make money. Smart. You are an entrepreneur. Very nice. All right. I'm going to heat up some coffee and or get some ice for my tea. I'm kind of burning out on coffee. I may go iced tea the rest of the way. So I would need ice for that. Offensive coordinator Darrell Bevel is the interim head coach. If you had Darrell Bevel on your scorecard. Look at you, Robert Browning. Your wife hoarding that Philadelphia cream cheese. Well, see, and I didn't know there was a shortage either. I would imagine your wife didn't know there was a shortage. All right, I'm going to grab some ice, and I'm going to be right back. If Mike Taylor will be kind enough, as he often is, to fill in. Thank you, Mike. Always appreciate it. Thank you, Mike Taylor. John Williams, Long Island iced tea would be nice at this point. See if I got my James Allen photo here. I'm sure we do. There he is. He'll be joining us here in a moment. Andy Everett coming up in a while as well. Oh, good. I'm glad James just saw that. Don says, James sent me a very nice message when I talked about my prostate cancer yesterday. It was very kind. And James Allen saw that. Cool. And Don, I have not seen that message. I'll have to go look at that. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I somehow missed that. I've had a crazy week. And with the Spurs game last night, as you know, I slept 3 hours and 32 minutes. There is Dave Ayler apparently has James Allen on the phone line, which is beautiful. Thank you, sir. James Allen is here. He's on the phone, so that graphic is now accurate. Yeah, Dean says sleep deprivation sucks. I tell people since I've been doing this morning show thing, I've been pretty much tired since 2019. Yeah, and then when there's a Spurs game, it's like I don't I don't sleep well that night, and then it affects the next day, and it's a recurring cycle. Next week's going to be really crazy for me. I think I've mentioned it here before. Monday night, there's a West Coast Spurs game. So I'll get out of here at like 1 a.m. Then I'm back here to do the morning show. So if I stretch it, I can sleep maybe until 4 a.m. So by the time I get home, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2 hours of sleep. Then I drive to Fredericksburg. Actually, my wife will drive me. I'll try to nap in the car. And then I officiate. So I do the show the next day, and then I drive to Fredericksburg and officiate a wedding. I am taking that next day after that off. That's when Paul Alexander will be in here with Shannon. That'll be the 22nd, Wednesday the 22nd. So Wednesday of next week, it'll be Paul and Shannon. But Tuesday of next week, I will be really tired in here after the West Coast Spurs game. All right, let's see here.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
What a night it was in sports leading to this day, Thursday, December 16th. The big banner story in the National Football League, the firing of Urban Meyer by Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. National Signing Day was yesterday. Texas A&M ranked number one with its recruiting class, and our guest, not only a former football player and alumnus of Texas A&M, but on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We will talk all things football with him. James Allen, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Good morning to you, Shannon, and the ever funny on Facebook, David. Chris, you're the James Brown of the radio show, the hardest working man in show business. I don't know how you do it, brother, but it's good to hear from you.
Thanks so much. We've been looking forward to talking with you as we do all week, but with so many developments in football, college and pro, James, so much to talk about. Got to get your take on Urban Meyer. Just such a bizarre season at Jacksonville. You go back to the Tim Tebow issue. You go back to he hired a strength and conditioning coach who had a track record of making racist comments. They had to let that guy go. You had the lap dance at his restaurant in Ohio after a Jaguars loss when he didn't get on the plane and go back with the team. Reports of berating his coaching staff, being belligerent with his players. Yesterday's report, a former kicker, Josh Lambo, said he kicked him in the leg during pregame warmups. What do you think of A, Urban Meyer, and B, how the Urban Meyer situation unfolded in Jacksonville?
Well, I mean, it's the reason why Nick Saban is one of the greatest, probably the greatest college coach, one of the best ever, and Bill Belichick's the greatest pro coach. And he was a protege to each other. The jump to the professional ranks is a different set of circumstances, and Coach Meyer is a great college coach at Ohio State. His record speaks volumes. Not going to take that away from him, but he went to a lowly team, and a lot of these coaches think they go to the NFL. This is not college. You can change things around right away. You got draft, you got general managers, you got owners, you got cap rates, you got all these things in college, and it's just overwhelming. The Chris Doyle was a terrible thing right off the bat. And then even Tim Tebow, which I love. I met the guy at an event here in San Antonio. But he hadn't played in 6 years, and he doesn't even play tight end, and you're bringing him back. And, this isn't college anymore. This is the NFL, and then, the kicking and everything else. He was self-destructing. He was making really bad decisions anymore, and I really think he couldn't separate the college from the pros. And it's tough for any coach to go to a lowly team and turn a professional team around. If you look at what Bill Belichick had to do under Parcells and the Browns and the Patriots and that stuff like that, it takes a grind. And I really think that the ego, when you're one of the top coaches in modern history, and you have to go to a lowly team, you think it's just going to all be magic. And he just was making terrible. Chris Doyle was a terrible decision. So really out of the jump, he just wasn't ready for that. But he's still a great coach. But that's a tough thing to go to the Jaguars. I don't care who it is, and to try to do that. I think it just was landslide, snowball, as we say in the league, a quicksand. The more you move, the faster you try to move, the more you sink, and he was just in a lot of quicksand. But overall, he's a great coach. He should find a job back in the college ranks, no problem.
James, what do you think about the timing of all of it? Because, you just went through all of the kind of succinct things that happened just this season alone. But given that there's still games left to be played this year, you kind of question, okay, why didn't this happen earlier when maybe one of those incidences was a bigger story? Or why not at this point with 4 games left in the season, 2-11, why not just wait until the season's over with?
I mean, when he'd already been fined for putting his hand on players and everything else. And then when the kicker came out and confirmed, they kept that in-house. And when he brought that out, the owner just said, okay, this is enough. This is too much. You have to do it now, because the problem is the owner is worried about people leaving his team. And he's got Trevor, he's trying to rebuild this team, and chemistry is bad. He's got to make a quick decision, because when that kicker came out and confirmed, which the league had already been fining Coach Meyer for this, by the way, and then they bring it to the public eye, the owner said, okay, this is enough. I got to get this. I got to cut now, because my team is in shambles. No one likes this guy. He's a bully. He's an egomaniac. I got to do something. It really was a good call. I do agree you should wait till the season ends, but due to inner locker room stuff, like, what happens in the locker room, nobody ever sees, and the chemistry thing, these things are exponentially worse behind the scenes. So sometimes you just have somebody who's just every week is just making terrible mental chemistry problems. You got to get rid of them.
Yeah, and if those reports that he was just berating his coaching staff are true, and James, I saw Stephen A. Smith made a great point. There were these reports that he was just really berating his coaching staff, calling them all losers, saying, I'm a winner, you guys are losers, and then going person by person saying, talk to me about your resume, justify who you are, and prove to me that you're not a loser. Stephen A. Smith made the point, if that was false, if that never happened and that was made up, that would be so easily refuted. You could just go around, you could have all of your coaching staff come out and say, that never happened. That was not refuted. I mean, that story was out there. Nobody refuted it. So there's a high probability. And as you just said, James, often it's worse behind the scenes. So it just sounds like it was just a very toxic relationship between Urban Meyer, his coaching staff, perhaps many of his players. Your thoughts, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence. I was telling Shannon earlier in the show, you think about a Mac Jones who wound up, you mentioned Bill Belichick, maybe the greatest coach ever, certainly a very stable winning organization in the New England Patriots. Mac Jones comes out as a rookie. I think most of us would agree he doesn't have the raw talent that Trevor Lawrence does, yet Mac Jones will be leading in all probability the Patriots to the playoffs, possibly home field throughout the playoffs, possibly even a Super Bowl for the Patriots and Mac Jones. And, Trevor Lawrence, as Shannon called it, has to deal with this dumpster fire in Jacksonville. How do you feel about Trevor Lawrence and his future at this point?
Well, I even said on our show when he got drafted, and everybody's saying the new coming, he wasn't going to stay at the Jaguars. And especially bringing in a coach like Urban, who doesn't know, it's so hard. Like Bill Belichick is a master of getting the best, like Coach Pop, of what he knows how to talk to people different ways and how to create energy. And Trevor's not going to stay there. There's just, I already knew about all the reports about the Jaguars, and of course I had to stay quiet about it. I don't have any inside knowledge to Trevor. I have an indirect source to him, and I would never disrespect his beliefs and his name. But I said from when he got drafted, he's not going to stay there. He has too much talent. He needs to go somewhere where they can mold him and make him use the abilities that, as if you will, that God has given him. I've said from the jump, he's not going to stay there.
Well, James, waking up this morning, Jacksonville definitely said, hold my beer to National Signing Day, because they have taken over the headlines. But that doesn't mean there weren't a ton of them, especially in the state of Texas. Texas A&M, by some accounts, has the #1 recruiting class thus far after the early signing period. Your thoughts on Jimbo Fisher's day yesterday?
Well, I think look at the University of Texas. Not to take away from A&M, but University of Texas, what 5, Shannon? And look at the season they've had, and they've had this roller coaster ride with things. Brand and media and this money, I think, I don't want to get on a side pontification here, but it's kind of like when the NBA and the NCAA got together about the one and done in basketball. And all the coaches were kind of like, guy at University of Kentucky, John Calipari, said, I'm going to promote the heck out of that. And it changed the game. And then Coach K and everybody said, well, I guess we're doing the one and done thing. this media and money and sponsorship, and look what Dion did. I think the Aflac commercials, has put Dion in a light. A&M beating Alabama is why I believe that. The media, the money, it's going to change the game. And the University of Texas, look at their brand. It's still, number 5 after the season they've had. And A&M beating Alabama is the reason they're there. And now, obviously, we're early signing. There's a lot to go. But, kids are watching this. And when A&M beat Alabama, because Alabama's going to steal the show, the media and the money, guys, I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of dichotomy, and the coaches and the teams, the organizations are going to jump on this. Hence why UT, so they're going to go to the SEC, because all the money and sponsorships, very smart stuff. And the schools that adapt to that and look at Coach Saban. I think Coach Saban being on these commercials, and Dion being on those commercials with Coach Saban, is going to help him. I think that you're going to see more of this trickle-down effect of money and sponsorships and portal system. It's a whole different game. It's kind of like what basketball did with one and done. And I think we're just seeing some of the symptoms of that now. But I obviously I interviewed real well, but I also think Texas, because Texas has a huge brand, Matthew McConaughey. It's that stuff, kids gravitate to that. And I'm telling you, look what it's doing for your school. So I think it's really exciting for Texas football to see A&M and University of Texas in the top 5.
As you mentioned, James, and you are a Texas A&M alumnus, and you're very involved, and you know a lot of what's going on at Texas A&M on many levels. You mentioned Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M defeated Alabama in the regular season. That's a big, big deal. Obviously, the development yesterday, having the number 1 recruiting class in the country, that's a big deal. As an Aggie, how do you feel about the program? Do you think they're in a position, they still, it's so hard to get beyond Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. Do you think Texas A&M is on the cusp of a college football playoff in the near future?
It's just so tough getting out of the SEC, Chris. I know I kind of shot that a couple of weeks ago about strength of schedule, but it reminds me of like I told you, repeating myself, the old Southwest Conference when A&M and UT and Arkansas and Oklahoma and everybody would beat up on each other. It was hard to get out of there. SEC's tough to get out of. It's tough. A&M's in the tougher section with Alabama and all those teams that they face in there. Georgia's got a little easier on their side, but it's going to be tough for tough to A&M to get out of the SEC. But I'm really, since Coach Sherman was there when he brought in, let's say Spencer Neely from San Antonio, Clark Jokel, Mike Evans, Johnny Manziel, we're on the cusp of that kind of recruiting class. And as long as the A&M department continues to stay steady and let Jimbo Fisher do his stuff and not, do the coach of the week stuff, I'm excited about it. It reminds me back when Coach Sherman brought in all those other guys, and look what they did. They went off and beat Alabama. So I think you got to beat Alabama to get out of there until, what's what's the famous wrestler? You got to be the man, you got to beat the man, Ric Flair, and
woo!
We're not going to beat Alabama. I'm not predicting beating Alabama, but I'm telling you, A&M is definitely the next couple of years is going to be a power source. Although I think the portal system is going to benefit Alabama tremendously if they continue to win national championships. But yeah, I'm excited for A&M, and I love what Dion did too. I love the whole pageantry. I love the college sports. I think it's going to be good for stuff like that. And it's going to make people start worrying about media and presence. And, we all need a Matthew McConaughey or a Deion Sanders on the sideline because it really does help our programs. But that's a long way to tell you. I'm excited about A&M, but to say we're going to give Alabama a run for money or come out of the SEC, maybe in the next couple of years we'd have a shot.
James, this weekend the Cowboys will take on the Giants. They sneaked out a win against division rival Washington last week, but the conversation all through this week has been, what's wrong with this offense? What's wrong with Dak? You have Jerry Jones saying, yeah, he probably is in a slump. That's fair to say. What's your take on the offense right now for the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, they just it's like they I don't know if it's the play calling as well. they seem to. I'm just the line. I mean, to Dak's credit, I mean, people aren't talking about the line anymore. It used to be the best line. I think they spent so much money on two players on the offensive side of the ball, which I don't want to go against my Hall of Fame brother and board member Jerry Jones, but he should have stayed with the hot offensive line like Jimmy Johnson did, and then build around that. And you blow a lot of money on two players, and I see Dak getting sacked a lot, and so I don't know if he's much a slump, but I don't see a lot of good protection up front. I don't know why people's not talking about that. Maybe they want to talk about all that, but when you throw most of your money on two players on the line, which you could have got a lot cheaper, and do like the Patriots did, like the old Dallas Cowboy did with Jimmy Johnson, put your money in your line. You have Troy, you have Michael Irvin, and build around that. You can test, Tom Brady. It starts up front. You got to have those guys up there. So, yeah, Dak's not doing great, but when you have to throw the ball a half a second or a second, when you can't really get a chance to line up the play, it's kind of tough. So, that's all I'm seeing. I'm not seeing bad play. I just seeing, not having a lot of time. And so I think they are spinning their wheels. But I never had I told you at the beginning of the season, I never saw them as a top team just because they have so many holes they're trying to fill from the defensive side, which they did. But I'm just not a big fan of their salary cap situation and where they put their money on the offensive side of the ball.
He is James Allen, board member and on the selection committee of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, James, I got to ask you, a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame has one of my favorite stories ever in the NFL, just the way he did what he did, and that is Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner, as many people know, played in the Arena League for the Iowa Barnstormers and found his way to a tryout with the St. Louis Rams. Trent Green gets injured, and Kurt Warner leads the St. Louis Rams to the Super Bowl. There is a movie that will drop on Christmas Day called American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story. I saw the trailer, liked it. Shannon saw the trailer, hated it. You, sir, have had an advanced screening of this movie. What did you think about the Kurt Warner movie?
Well, Shannon's a graduate from a very elite film and school at University of Texas, which they are. So I'm sure she's looking at from that optics from an acting. But it is an independent film, so if you give that latitude, but the story is very inspirational. It's true. They say Kurt Warner's story is probably one of the best ever in NFL history, from start to finish. And I already knew this going in. I'm not giving away the film, but it really came down to Dick Vermeil. Even making the team because he was the last player to get cut, and Dick Vermeil, said, guys, he was a head coach, very non-ego guy, and hopefully he'll get inducted this year. And Dick Coach Vermeil just, said, I think you should give this guy a shot. His character is just amazing, and he's kind of the last guy to be on the team at the last position. And the whole story about not giving up and perseverance and his faith, to me is, I love that. It's one of my favorite movies about football. The Book of Manning's probably my other one. So if you take away the lens of, not a Denzel Washington or Robert De Niro or something like that kind of acting, but you look at the story and the passion tree that's involved with it, it's a great film.
So you are recommending on Christmas Day that I go to a movie theater and see the Kurt Warner movie?
Go get your James Allen Veggie Monster taco over at UTSA, and then go see the movie.
All right.
I'll consider it.
But I won't pay for it.
I'm gonna wait till it's
because
free
I don't
to
want
me
to pay for that.
I refuse.
I'll probably end up watching that
Sean Payton Netflix.
Well, that's not bad. I'm a big fan of Sean Payton. I will tell you what. I will send you the ticket for the movie if you'll go. I know how tight you are. I will send you the money.
Why are you making fun of my wallet, James? It ain't like
He's
that.
like Philadelphia cream cheese. He's making you an offer.
Like that. That's right.
That's right.
So James, last week we found out that you have a taco named after you.
At
Fuegos.
We thought it was just location.
College Station, but it's also the brand new San Antonio location bears your name on a taco as well. Have you gone by to get said taco. And by ordering it, you just roll down your window and you say, "Hello, look at this face. Obviously, you know what I'm going to order here."
I don't think I look at my face anymore. I have a great radio face, but no, I was shocked by that. And several people heard this broadcast and they took pictures and said it's there. I still haven't reached out to the owner yet, and that reminds me, we've been at Hall of Fame different board meetings last week and a half for year-end stuff, but I'm going to call David Lovelace and tell him thank you, but I am going to go by and do that. I'm so honored, and I'm glad that was revealed on this show, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I am. It's on my list. I'm going to Fuego's, and when I do it, James, you'll know about it because I'm going to video when I eat the taco that is named after you. James Allen on the board on the selection committee of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. James, always outstanding, sir. Thanks for taking the time. We'll do it again next week.
My walkout music. All right, thanks, guys. I love you guys.
Very nice. Walk out music for James Allen. Coming up, Andy Everett getting ready to call the UTSA bowl game next week, the Frisco Bowl against San Diego State. How did UTSA do on National Recruiting Day, and what did he learn last night as he did the coaches show with Jeff Traylor? We'll talk all things football and UTSA football with Andy Everett next on the Chris Duel Show. All righty. Thank you to James Allen. See, now, Jason, you've got a good idea. Go to Fuego's in honor of James Allen, or better yet, if we do an event, we should go to Fuego's with James Allen, have his monster veggie taco. Is it a taco or a burrito? With him. And we could actually, so you could eat the James Allen taco in the presence of James Allen. That would be cool. All right, Andy Everett next.
All right.
Andy Everett coming up. James, great segment just now. James Allen saying Urban Meyer will have college coaching opportunities, none at the NFL at this time. Yeah, I agree. If I were an NFL team, I would stay away from Urban Meyer. So yeah, James, I don't know if you were here earlier. We might have to do like an event where we all go to Fuego's and have the James Allen taco in the presence of James Allen. So we could all pose with you and the taco. Yeah, see, that's part of what the fact that the Kurt Warner story is a true story. It's an amazing story. I really, I think of everybody's journey to go from bagging groceries and out of football to quarterbacking an NFL team to a Super Bowl victory. And he darn near, I was at the game in New Orleans when Tom Brady and the Patriots in Brady's first Super Bowl beat the Rams, and the Rams were favored to win that one. So could have gotten 2 there. And then, of course, goes back to the Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals and loses to Pittsburgh. I just love the story. It's amazing. Frank Ramirez, good morning. Welcome in, Frank. Yeah, I did. Dean mentions this. Metallica streaming their 40th anniversary concert tomorrow. I think that's on Amazon Prime or something, right? I saw that advertised.
I'm coming back for Andy.
Cool. He's not there though yet, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So I was saying Texas A&M University because we were just.
Well, no, if I could, I would change that.
Yeah.
But so I emailed you the pronunciation this morning, but I thought I would let you hear it directly.
Tamu, as in, because you said that like Shamu. Okay. Rhymes with, okay.
Well, that I didn't say.
I thought you said that.
No.
Rhymes with Shamu.
No, but on the phonetic pronunciation, I put T-A- and then an uppercase M-O-O.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to go, like 1 or 2 o'clock on Saturday. Okay. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Christopher Smith joining us from Kenya. Andy Everett. Let me find my Andy Everett photo. There he is. And he is on the phone line. Very cool. Christopher Smith drove to the west coast of Kenya yesterday on the lake. Man, I can't even imagine. It's got to be very, very picturesque. Jesse Bratton, good morning. Yeah, Jesse, what I'm worried about, Jesse's saying that hopefully Dak's slump ends against the Giants. Tyron Smith will be out for that game. The Cowboys' record and Dak's record without Tyron Smith on that offensive line is not tremendous. Mamma Mia. Some ABBA for you, or ABBA, depending on your pronunciation. Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, Dave Ayler playing the ABBA because Andy Everett likes ABBA, as do I. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics, of course, UTSA football. Last night, a bonus edition, a bowl edition of the Jeff Traylor Show, along with Andy Everett and at the Sandbox near UTSA, near the campus. Andy, did we learn anything new from Coach Jeff Traylor last night on the Coaches Show?
Well, we talked a little bit about San Diego State. They're a really good defensive team, and especially against the run. And UTSA is a really good offensive team, especially running the football. And when the run doesn't work, guys like Zachary Franklin and Josh Cephas and JT Clark catch passes. So should be a fun game. 2 top 25 teams, and the only game in town on any bowl game next Tuesday night. And I believe there's been some publications that have ranked them as the 5th best bowl game out of all 40 of them. So it should be a fun game next Tuesday.
Now, Andy, Chris and I get to talk to Coach Jeff Traylor once a week, but I've never actually been around him physically. You've had these coaches shows on Wednesday nights throughout the season. Any difference in his vibe now that he's going to a bowl game? Is he feeling loose? Is he having fun?
I think he'll have fun and he'll enjoy this after it's all done. And one of the things we talked about last night was signing day. And a few years ago, they changed the signing date from the first Wednesday in February to the middle of December. And I think one of the reasons why they did that is so many coaches were sick and tired of getting players committed before Christmas. Then those players would go home and their friends would talk them out of their commitment. And then they had to re-recruit them in all of January and then have this big signing day on February 1st or 2nd, whatever that first Wednesday is. And I think Jeff and a lot of other coaches would like to go back to the way it was. Because even though you might lose a recruit or two that gets talked out of something by their friends at Christmas, it's better than it is now. And the problem with it is now is that for those teams that are in bowl games, they're double dipping. They're trying to get ready for bowl games, and there's 80 teams that are in bowl games. So the majority of the teams are getting ready for games while their coaching staffs are all fractured all over the place trying to sign players before Christmas. And it makes for a hard time. And then the other part of that equation, too, is that when a school decides to make a change, they want their new coach in before that signing day so that they can start recruiting players for next year's class. So that's when Texas Tech came after Jeff, and other coaches leave early, and Brian Kelly's not going to coach Notre Dame in the bowl game because they've got to go someplace else now and move on. So if the signing date was in February like it used to be, then they could do all of this. Schools wouldn't even have to think about hiring a coach until December 20th or somewhere around in that time. It would give them more time to interview prospective people and move on from there. So I think that there's going to be some changes to the signing day thing, and I think the intention of it has not worked out the way they thought that it would.
He is Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics. Speaking of yesterday's National Signing Day, Andy, do you have an impression of how UTSA did? Did you get some feedback from head coach Jeff Traylor yesterday? Any of these players stand out to you as very, very notable?
Well, there's 3 transfers. I didn't write down all their names. I'll learn them when they start playing. But there's one from Baylor. There's one from Ole Miss. There's another Division I transfer FBS team that's got to transfer in. And it's in places where they're going to need help. Offensive line, linebacker, defensive line, with those players who are going to be moving on, either through out of eligibility, graduation, or deciding to go to the pros, whichever they all do. So that's the first thing. The other part of this equation, and there's a lot of people that thought, okay, UTSA built this race facility, and it's awesome and it's great. Now what? Now how do we capitalize from that? And now they have a football coach that's going to be paid and a staff that's going to be paid at the American Conference level. All right, check that box. Well, the next box that needs to be checked is business people in San Antonio that own businesses getting behind this football team from a name, image, and likeness thing. And you can say you don't like name, image, and likeness. You can say it's wrong. You can say it's right. You can have whatever opinion you want. But the bottom line is that there is going to be a name, image, and likeness thing forever. It's never going away. I don't know if you saw the story or not, but SMU and the city of Dallas, with SMU's blessing, I guess, if you will, has formulated the Dallas Football Club. And what this is a group of business people that when they have a recruit, they will promise this person money to sign with SMU. It's literally no difference in what got them the death penalty in the 80s. Now it's legal. Back then it was not. And so and SMU and UTSA are going to be in the same league. And so is Memphis, and so is UAB. And all of those communities are going to have these business partnerships to where they organize this NIL money for players who sign. And there's going to be schools that are going to out-recruit the other one because somebody got 50 grand or 75 grand or 100 grand and the other school couldn't come up with that. So that's going to be one of the next things that UTSA has to cover in the next couple of years as they transition into the American Conference, because you're not going to beat teams with inferior players. And if school A wants a player and you want that player and the other school is paying him, you're going to lose.
We're kind of talking about this concept a little earlier on the show when we mentioned Jackson State and Deion Sanders getting a flip from Florida State. Back in the day before NIL, you weighed the education you were getting. You weighed the size of the program and the visibility that you would get, so you could get that film on tape, as well as the coaching staff and the coaches you would be playing for. Now that we throw NIL into the mix, what percentage do you think in a majority of college-aged ready kids' mind? Because obviously there are going to be those that are just focused on the money and those that really don't care what the situation money-wise is going to be. How much percentage do you think is now in the discussion when they are sitting at home with their parents trying to figure out which school is best for them, that this percentage needs to be focused on NIL versus the education you'd be getting and the coach you might be playing for?
Every player that's being recruited by a college football team thinks they're worth something. And now the reality of it is they may not be. And there may be players that sign with a school that don't get anything because nobody else offered them anything either. But for the 3 stars and the 4 stars and certainly the 5 stars and probably some of the 2 stars, they're going to get money. Whether they deserve it or not, whether they live up to that accolade or not, that's to be determined once they get on campus and get in the deal and get playing and see if they make it. But, let's look at the Texas A&M, the SMU thing from 1982. Eric Dickerson takes the Trans Am from Texas A&M, drives to SMU, plays there, and 5 years later they're on probation for 2 years and with a death penalty. Quinn Ewers goes to Ohio State, plays 2 snaps, and got whatever he got for that NIL deal. And now there's rumors that he's going to sign for up to $3 or $4 million in possible NIL money from Texas. So it's going to be kind of the highest bidder thing. And I think every player thinks they're worth something. The reality of the thing is they may not actually be worth it until the people come around. But that's the problem is if UTSA's got 15 guys that nobody wanted and they're not getting paid, and their competition in the American Conference has 15 guys and they all got paid, chances are those other teams have better players, and better players are always going to win.
Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics. And Andy, speaking of great players, Sincere McCormick of the UTSA Roadrunners, you've said for months and months and months, this guy's going to be playing on Sundays in the NFL. When Shannon and I spoke with Jeff Traylor on Monday, we talked a little bit about Sincere McCormick, and Jeff Traylor said if Sincere McCormick comes back. One of our viewers on the live video feed, Marcus, wants to know, and I guess we don't know, but I just want to get your thoughts on Sincere McCormick and a decision he has to make. Once again, he was named All-American. He's gotten all of these accolades because he was and is one of the best running backs in college football. What do you think the calculus is for Sincere McCormick on whether or not he comes back another year to play for Jeff Traylor and UTSA?
Well, I think at some point they'll figure out where his draft status is. Is he going to be drafted? Is he going to be in the third or fourth round? Is he going to be in the first or second round? Where does he stack up? But if you look at the Mel Kiper boards, he's not on any of them. And Mel Kiper is usually pretty close to being right when it comes to who the top 10 running backs are. The NFL is now a league where you can have a star like Ezekiel Elliott, but you can also have a guy like Pollard who's just as good. Or performs at a similar level, especially with Zeke's injuries over the last couple of years. I think running backs are still important in the NFL. The one thing I like the most about Sincere McCormick is most of his life he's been told he's not good enough to do something, and he's proven it to otherwise. And so I think from his standpoint, all it takes is for somebody to say, "Here's your shot, go for it," and he'll run. He'll take the inch and make it a mile. And I hope he gets that opportunity. But I think before you make a decision on whether you're leaving or not, you need to find out from an NFL scout or from somebody that you're not paying as an agent so that you don't lose your eligibility. Hey, what is my draft status? How high am I going to go? What kind of money am I going to make? Sincere's a new dad. His baby girl is over a year old. I'm sure he has responsibilities in that area that he'd like to be able to take care of. And there's a lot of other players that are in that same boat. So if they can make money, then they should go. If they can't, then they should stay. And I think that's the thing is the worst thing in the world is that you think you're going to get drafted, you don't get drafted, you get a camp invite and you're on a practice squad, or you're not even on a practice squad and you end up playing in Canada. Now you're thinking, man, I should have stayed in school. So those are all the evaluations that you have to go through before you make that decision.
Andy Everett will have the call. And Andy, I don't have it in front of me. Kickoff date time. It's next Tuesday, the Frisco Bowl.
Next Tuesday, 6:30 is the kickoff. Will be on the air at 4:30. Before that, UTSA will have a basketball game at Illinois State. So you'll have about 10 hours of UTSA on Saturdays, on Tuesday, starting at 1:30. Jay Howard will go to Normal, Illinois, and call the basketball game. And as soon as he's done with basketball, we'll morph into football and be on from about 1:30 to 10:30 with UTSA games on that day. And we also have basketball tomorrow night at home, and then next Wednesday, the day after the Frisco Bowl, we'll be in the final non-conference basketball game. So lots of things happening at UTSA in the next week.
Be sure to catch Andy's call next Tuesday, 6:30 kickoff, 4:30 air, as UTSA tries to go 13-1, taking on San Diego State in the Frisco Bowl. Andy Everett, always outstanding, sir. Thanks for taking the time this morning. We appreciate it.
You got it. Take care.
All right. Shannon Salty Sweeney, one of our, the poll question today in the wake of Jacksonville's firing of Urban Meyer. We asked our listeners / viewers to look into the future. What have we learned about the future of Urban Meyer?
Apparently, the future of Urban Meyer includes more lap dances, as 40% of the votes are going there. But you know what's great about him being able to get those lap dances is that that's just part of what he could do, right? So we also have 29% saying he will either not be coaching or doing TV gigs. He'll be doing something else entirely. 18% saying he'll just be a TV analyst, and 10% saying he will coach in college once again.
Yeah, and you made a great point earlier in the show, Shannon. His ego. We know he's very successful in college. You know, so the last thing he's remembered for as a coach is Jacksonville, which was a debacle. I got a feeling his ego will lead him back to college football, and I got to believe there's going to be a program out there who wants him just based on his college football record. Speaking of the future, Dave Ayler, your bowl picks, you're in a pool. Have you gotten any closer to filling out your big bowl sheet?
I'm about halfway there. So I'm getting there.
Yeah, just go look at the lines and pick. One way to do it. One way to favorites. Go look at the point spread on each game.
I should do the animal against animal thing.
You know what? Former Soundscape stylist Jeremy Fouts.
Yeah.
That may be. You may want to just call Jeremy Fouts and say, Jeremy, just pick it for me. And he'd probably
owe him some
money, though.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take all the help I can get.
Very cool. Well, we want to thank James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics. Shannon, outstanding. Salty shakedown. Everything was great. As always, thanks. We'll do it again in 21 hours.
Yes, sir. I look forward to it.
I look forward to it on a Friday.
Yes. And apparently, Dave Ayler, we won't do it again in 21 hours. You're leaving us again tomorrow.
Yeah, not until next Tuesday.
All right. So I think we'll see you next Tuesday on a Taco Tuesday. Jeremy Kolak will be in tomorrow. We love Jeremy. Ohio State, Oklahoma State partisan Jeremy Kolak. Have yourself a great Thursday. We will see you at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Take care of yourselves. Adios, amigos. Woo! All right, y'all. I am tired. I slept 3 hours and 32 minutes last night. I'm going to go take a nap. Y'all take care. Have a great Thursday. Thursday night football. We didn't even talk about it much at all on the air. LA Chargers versus the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. It's a pretty good Thursday night football game. We will see you later. Have a great Thursday.